Welcome to Warblog. This is a game development that has been in the pipeline for a long time. In short, multiplayer. So two people can play the game at the same time anywhere in the world. Sounds great, doesn't it? It's not that difficult actually. I mean, I've always known how I would do it, but I've always been sort of putting it off until there were enough people playing it. There's not at the moment. There's no one playing it really at the moment. Well, there's no one playing it. So, but that doesn't mean that they won't. And I'm not sort of driven so much by that requirement. But the point is, it's Christmas, and I thought I would just get it out of the way. I wouldn't say it's complete, but I thought I would just do this video. So it's taken me a couple of hours actually. For what it's worth, it didn't take that long. It's just mind-bendingly complex, but it's one of those things that you have to put your brain into a sort of an excessive position that is quite difficult to do, from my point of view anyway, and so I've always been putting it off for that reason. But it's done now, so I'm going to give you a brief overview of how it works. So, I don't want to mess around too much with this because this is actually some other person's game, but it's sort of from 2 years ago, so it doesn't matter. But let's start off with, let's see whether I can plonk this into here, because this is one of my own accounts. So basically, let's just take this from the top. If I want to play this game with someone else, I would then go into play mode, and then I go into the squidgy thing. I might change the colour background on this, but basically this is now the multiplayer option. So when you click on that, you basically get two options. Now at the moment there are no options in there, but you would then decide, well, at the moment it's saying you because I'm playing myself, but the thing is not to worry too much about that because at this stage, because that means nothing, because there are no IPs in there because I have not configured it. But if I did, this would be accurate. So essentially I could go back. I'm not playing. The game is not dependent on IPs at this stage. But if I decide that I want to play Iran, I would then leave that there because that's my IP. And then if someone else said they wanted to play Iraq, I would find out what that IP was, and then I would put it in there like that, for example. And then I just select multiplayer. And, well, that shouldn't happen, but don't worry about that. That's just for me making notes. But now essentially what this means is that now this is set up for multiplayer game playing. So if I go back to the game, I will be able to, and I can't remember who I was playing. Let's just look. Yeah, so I am playing Iran. And it's the Iran turn, so I can move. Oh no, these are the Iranian players. So I can move like that. Now when I finish my turn, a couple of things will happen. Firstly, I no longer have the ability to end the turn. That is now done by the other person's IP. So now I'm basically just sitting here. I can't move my Iranian pieces, and I can't move the Iraqi pieces. So the person with the IP that I have just specified is the only person that can move now. Now, the way that sort of works is, to some extent, this is sort of maybe. No, that's okay. I didn't put the name in there. Now this is someone else's game, but I've gone in and twiddled with the IPs accordingly, and just to sort of test it. It's quite complicated to test because I've only got one IP. I mean, I guess I could sort of try and, I don't know, connect with my phone or something like that, but I can't even do that really. I mean, it's actually, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's not simple. I don't have multiple IPs to test. So basically it's a bit odd. But when I look into my games, I will see all of my games. For example, there's the game that I've just started playing, just there. Obviously some games that I've been playing before, and essentially at some point, and okay, that's a bit odd. Let me pause that, see if I can figure it out. Okay, sorted that. It wasn't a problem with what I did. It's just a little problem with the fact that I had 10 games and the count thing isn't working. So this game, which is at the bottom, was number 11 and just for some reason wasn't fitting in. I'll have to go back and deal with that, obviously. But basically the point is now that when you go into your games, you see all of your games, obviously, as I was just probably saying. But then you'll see the games that are multiplayer. Now I can't delete that game because it's actually been created and is in someone else's game portfolio in the same way as, say, this is. But it's now in there as a multiplayer. Now obviously if it was a more recent game it would actually be right at the top. So what you need to do is somehow communicate with the other person. They put in your IP in this instance. And then when they've invited you to a game, you will see their game in your portfolio. You click on it, and then you can start playing it. And in this instance, I'm playing as the Pakistan player, so I can move the Pakistan units. And then when I end my turn, it goes over to the Indian player. Now, I can't move those Indian counters, so now I can't really demonstrate much more than that, other than by sort of pausing and going in and twiddling with the code. But basically that's how it works. Now I've got a few other things to sort of add later. I'm not sure when I'm going to do them. I mean, basically you now have the ability to play remotely with other people. And the way that will work is, well, as I said, there's going to be a few other things I'm going to put in, but basically you need to communicate with them. So you would either have to sort of have some sort of instant messenger up, or even phone them up or email them, say I've done my turn. You can't watch them do the turn in real time. The other development that I might put in place is a JavaScript timer that will essentially refresh the page. It will determine that you're in multiplayer mode, and then every, say, minute or every 20 seconds or whatever I decide to set the setting to be, it will refresh the page. And when it's determined that it's now your turn again, you'll get a prompt saying it's now your turn. Now, the only thing you can't do with this is actually see what they're doing, so you won't see them moving the counters about. I mean, that would be really fine and fantastic. But, I mean, I'm not... That's just beyond the capability of HTML at this level. I mean, I could possibly do something to replicate something along those lines. I definitely wouldn't be able to make them move. But even if I put a timer to refresh the page every second, you could see things dynamically happening, but you wouldn't go into the combat screens or anything like that. So basically, I mean, it's not sort of brilliant at that level, but it was never intended to be. I mean, it was always sort of intended to be exactly as I'm describing it here, almost like a play-by-email game, where you do your move and then you get a refreshment when they've done their turn. The only thing is you can reload your page. So if the Indian player moves his unit there, when you reload your page, you'll actually see that they've moved there. So you could sit there refreshing your page, throughout the turn if you knew that they were actually doing things right there and then. However, if you were waiting for them to sort of do the next turn when they get back from work or in their lunch break, you'd have a long wait. So hopefully that should make sense. I mean, it's something that I was always hoping to put in when there was sort of like a critical load of people actually playing the game. But so I've just sort of gone for it now, and the thing to say is, because there's no sort of critical load, is that it's not really going to get tested until someone signs up and starts actually playing and then says, it doesn't work. So it's a feature that is going to be very much under review. So I don't really want to sort of go around there blowing trumpets and saying, you know, new multiplayer mode, but essentially it's now active and you can now do it. So if you've been waiting for multiplayer mode, you and all your 250 friends or whatever, now's the time to start playing that against an opponent anywhere in the world. So there you go, multiplayer war blog. Knock yourself out.